We've all seen them. Signs on the side of the road in national parks explaining what the resource is that we're looking at, what we should be looking for, and what's so impressive about it, or why it's of some kind of significance. Or perhaps in the zoo, as we've experienced in this class, signs telling us what the animal is, some fun facts about the animal, things that somebody thinks that we should know. Creating effective visual displays takes a lot of thought and a lot of talent, really, in putting together a good design that will meet the overall purpose of our sign for our exhibit. We want to start off with the planning triangle. You can't just willy-nilly throw some facts on a sign and hope that it turns out well. You really need to think through, what is your purpose? Why are you making this sign? What is your resource and who are you making this sign for? In our case, the what is probably the animal that your group has selected, and the who is the visitors at the zoo. Think about the demographics of those visitors. Who is most likely to be stopping and watching your animal? You should think about these three things and put them together into one well thought out interpretive plan. Okay, so we think about, why is it important? How effective will the sign be at providing the intended interpretive experience for the visitor? What will they learn? Are you going to give them some facts? What is the emotional feel that you want to portray with your sign? Do you want them to be concerned about your animal, excited about your animal, sad, happy? What emotion might you want to convey through your sign? What about a behavioral aspect of your sign? What will they do while reading the sign? What will they be motivated to do after reading your sign? Say it visually. If you can, every time, use pictures instead of words when at all possible. You've all seen the signs that have lots and lots of words on it, and you move right to the next sign, or to not a sign at all. You want a large focal point with a graphic that can attract the attention and then create flow throughout your sign. We'll come back to this later in this presentation. Keep all picture captions near the picture so that you can tell which caption is associated with which picture. If you can say it with a picture, don't say it with words. This picture is a good example, or this sign is a good example of saying it with pictures. Right here, you get the life cycle of these aquatic animals all through a picture. Anybody, any age, and whether or not you can read or not, can pick up what they're trying to convey with just this message. You also get an idea of what kind of habitat you're looking at and dealing with, who lives in that habitat, all without reading those words. If you can say it visually, do so. This picture is taken from the Denver Zoo. You probably saw it while you were there. When one sign with very few words, you're connecting many species of animals into one common thing, how far they can jump. And you're connecting the person who's stopping at this sign with every single one of these animals. Okay, planning the message using the 3-30-3 rule. This is a really, really important rule to be thinking of, and all of you should keep this in mind when you're planning your sign. It's kind of a general rule of thumb for any kind of interpretive sign. What it means is that you have a 3-second message, a 30-second message, and a 3-minute message. The 3-second message is something that the audience can pick up with just 3 seconds. Maybe they're just passing by and they read Delaware's inland bays. They know that much, couple pictures, and they're ready to move on. So in this case, I'd say there's really three 3-second messages: the title, the location, and a few pictures that gives us an idea of who might live in Delaware's inland bays. Then you move on to the 30-second piece of information. These are the people who want a little bit more than just the 3-second, and they're willing to stand there a bit longer. So you see this nice short paragraph with good font that matches the rest of the of this picture. with a short message about where you are, how they're connected to other waterways, etc. A 30-second message. And finally, the 3-minute. This is for the person who's more interested than the average person. It provides them with a little bit more to take home from this experience. I, for one, am someone who likes the 3-minute messages. I get a little irritated when signs only tell me the name of an animal and maybe 2 or 3 fun facts, but I really don't learn much about the animals when I'm there. But again, remember your planning triangle when you're thinking of your 3-30-3 rule. If the most of your audience is going to be young children, you probably don't want to devote much of your sign, if any, to the 3-minute people. Okay, let's look at this picture. What do you think is the 3-second, the 30-second, and the 3-minute pieces? Let's start with 3-second. I would suggest that playing it safe in woodland cover, the picture of the kudu, and maybe a little bit of this information over here could fall into the 3-second information. 30-second would be these short paragraphs. If you were to read all 30 or all 4 of these, probably take about 30 seconds. And I would almost argue that there isn't much for 3 minutes, but the rest of the sign might fall into 3 minutes. But you get the idea that the information is broken up. You can choose to read all of the sign, or you can scan through the headings and read the ones that interest you the most. But the author of this sign has created a variety of options for the reader who's passing by. Okay, keep the message short. You're going to research a lot of information about your animal. It's very difficult to narrow it down and make it concise enough to fit in that 3:33 message. You don't want 3, 1 minute and then 10-minute message. This is just too much. So pare it all down, decide what's most important, decide what relates to your purpose, and keep it short. Now, there's something called the Wright formula, which considers word length and sentence length to determine how difficult something is to read. The Flesch Reading Ease considers syllables per word. Now, if you've had to read, let's say, some scientific papers, I would say more than likely you would agree that those papers had a high Flesch or a high difficulty on this Flesch reading scale. Use concrete nouns and active verbs. For example, use hole in a tree versus den. Which of those should you use? Well, den is more concrete and helps you keep the message short. Eliminates excess words. Let's look at flew erratically versus fluttered. Fluttered is more concrete and an active verb rather than something that's passive and has already occurred. Relate to the visitor's experience. Use personal pronouns when possible. You, we, things like that. They're going to help connect that reader or visitor to that moment in space and time, to your animal. Look at this example. Your garden's impact on local waterways. There's 2 words right there in the title that connect the visitor to this particular spot to what's going on around them. Your and local. Use metaphors and similes, like and as. Use analogies, especially if you can create an analogy that allows them to relate to whatever message you're trying to portray. Use quotes and real examples when possible. How about this? You and 50,000 birds vacation in Morro Bay. Well, right there, it gives you the idea that maybe that human should be sharing their space with all of these birds that come through and migrate through these areas. That connects the reader and lets them know why it's important that they need to take care of this place. This one's from the Denver Zoo. Will polar bears survive? This is quite an emotional tone to this feel. We'll come back to color later, which I think also agrees with this concerned emotion. What's on your mind? Here's how the zoo is connecting with other people. It's up to you. There's a very personal connection with this sign. Okay, I imagine that you touched, felt, or listened to something, some sign in the zoo while we were there. Tactile exhibits and audio exhibits are a hit with kids. Interactive exhibits are even better. Things that someone can actually do while they're reading the sign to engage in what you're trying to tell them. Some suggestions are like flip ups. So these sheets right here have a question on the front. You lift the knob and the answer's behind them. Viewing tubes are really fun where you can look through a tube and see something. A passport where you have to collect information from different signs as you go through the zoo. Those are all ways to create an interactive exhibit. Here's an example of one of the bears there at the Denver Zoo where you can reach out and measure your hand against its paw. Get an idea for the size. The zoo uses these type of things a lot, but bronze bighorn sheep ram skulls and heads. This one has some audio to it. How does a tapir talk? I have no idea. So something like that, if there's something unique about your animal, you may want to consider some type of an audio. Okay, let's stop there. We'll come back and focus on sign design in just a minute on the next video.